भगवान् बादरायणः भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवान् तद् अभिप्रेतं श्रुतवांस्तद् अभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः। सौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सुत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः। सौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सुत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः। सौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सुत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच
सौनक उवाच
निर्गते नारदे सूत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
निर्गते नारदे सूत भगवान् बादरायणः
तथा किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सूत भगवान् बादरायणः
श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं
ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सूत भगवान् बादरायणः
श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं
ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
सौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सुत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुत्वंस्तत् अभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
सौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सूत भगवान् बादरायणः
श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं
ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच निर्गते नारदे सुत भगवान् बादरायणः श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच
निर्गते
नारदे सूत
भगवान्
बादरायणः
श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतं
ततः किम् अकरोत् विभुः।
शौनक उवाच
Saunaka Uvacha
निर्गते नारदे सूत
Nirgate Narade Suta
भगवान् बादरायणः
Bhagavan Badarayanaha
श्रुतवांस्तदभिप्रेतम्
Shrutavamstad Abhipretam
ततः किम् अकरोद् विभुः
Tatah Kim Akarod Vibhuhu. Synonyms: Saunakaha, Sri Saunaka, Uvacha, said, Nirgate, having gone, Narade, Narada Muni, Sutta, O Sutta, Bhagavan, the transcendently powerful, Vadarayanaha, Vedavyas, Shrutavan, who heard, Tat, his, Abhipretam, desire of the mind, Tataha, thereafter, Kim, what, Akarat, did he do, Vibhuhu, the great. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
It's appearing to be cut there. Rishi Saunaka asked, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? Translation with repetition. Rishi Saunaka asked, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva
Transcendently powerful Vyasadeva
heard everything
heard everything
from Sri Narada Muni.
from Sri Narada Muni.
So after Narada's departure,
So after Narada's departure,
what did Vyasadeva do?
what did Vyasadeva do?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
In this chapter, the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavatam is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. This was caused by Droni, Aswathama, Acharya Drona's son, who killed the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance and devotion. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are beginning a new chapter today. It's called The Son of Drona Punished. Actually, okay, let's see the verse first. So it is telling Sri Saunaka Uvacha Nirgate Narade Sutta Bhagavan Badarayanaha Shrutavam Stad Abhipretam Tatah Kim Akarod Vibhuhu. Saunaka Uvacha, Saunaka Rishi, if you remember, was the head of the sages in Naimisharanya. So the conversation has shifted from Narada and Vyasa to Saunaka. Saunaka Uvacha. Saunaka is speaking. What is he speaking? Nirgate Narade Sutta. Nirgate, having gone. It's past. What do you call that? Present, past, and past. Not future. Past participle. What is that? So like go, went, and gone. Past. What is that gone? Huh? present for, okay. Nirgate, having gone. Saunaka Uvacha is, he's saying Nirgate Narade Sutta. So who has gone, having gone? Narada Muni. Nirgate Narade Sutta. Sutta Goswami. Oh, Sutta Goswami. This is a question to Sutta Goswami by Saunaka. Bhagavan Vadarayanaha. So the word Bhagavan is used here for Vyasadeva. Another name of Vyasadeva is Vadarayanaha. So Vyasadeva, who is also very transcendently powerful, Tatah Kim Akurad, what did he do? What did he do after having Shrutavams, having heard? Tad Abhipretam. What is the desire of Narada Muni? What Narada Muni desired, he spoke that to Bhagavan Badarayana, and Narada Muni has gone, Nirgate. Tata Kim Akurad, then what did he do? Bhagavan Badarayana, Vibhuhu. Vibhuhu is translated by Prabhupada as the great. So this question, Vibhuhu, is referring to Sutta. Oh, Vibhuhu Sutta, please tell us. Nirgate Narade, that Narada Muni has now gone. Bhagavan Badarayana, Shrutavams tad avipratam, tad tatah kim akurad. What did he do? Vedavyas, what did he do? When he heard this from Narada Muni, his desire, after that, what did he do? So this is the words. Rishi Shaunaka asked, Saunaka Uvacha, O Sutta, Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva, Bhagavan Badarayanaha, heard everything from Sri Narada Muni, Shrutavams tad abhipretam. So after Narada's departure, Nirgate Narade, what did Vyasadeva do? Tatah kim akurot. This is the verse. I was saying, actually, in life, the most auspicious thing possible is hearing and speaking about Srimad Bhagavatam. If one gets a chance to hear, or if one gets a chance to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the most auspicious thing. See, the sneezing just confirms that. Whenever you say something and if there is a sneeze, it's actually 100% truth. Of course, Bhagavatam can never say something which is lie. Proof, here is a verse which comes. Ayur harati vai pumsam udayanastan chayanaso tasyartayat kshanonita uttama shloka vartaya. Ayur harati vai pumsam. We have spoken this verse many a times, but it's a very important verse to remember. That like in a calendar, you have different pages, and one day is over and you flip the page and go to the next page. Similarly, in our life, which is like a calendar, one page goes just like that when the sun rises and sun sets. Ayur harati vaipumsam. For sure, certainly it goes away. It's a fixed quota, it's a fixed number of pages that we have. But those pages of calendar can be filled with wonderful activities when we tasyarte yat kshanonita uttama shloka vartaya, when we are spending that time in hearing and discussing about the pastimes or the topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Uttama shloka vartaya. Why? Because when we hear and when we speak Srimad Bhagavatam, we make progress in our inner journey, in our internal heart towards Krishna. Our consciousness becomes evolved. If not this life, maybe it will take many, many lifetimes, but we are making steady progress towards reaching Krishna. So that is why this Bhagavatam, it is the most auspicious thing. It could be any topic from anywhere, but we are very fortunate that we are reading it every day, not every day, we are reading it every Sunday. At least on every Sunday, we are going verse by verse. And this investment of our time in hearing and reading Srimad Bhagavatam is the most auspicious. Tasyarte yat kshanonita uttama shloka vartaya. Now, I want to focus on this one thing which Saunaka Rishi is asking. Rishi Saunaka asked, O Suta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after his departure, what did he do? Actually, Bhagavatam is so wonderful. I mean, if you see it from different angles, you can see different things. Let's see this one thing that Sonaka Rishi is asking, why it is important. What did Vyasadev do? Let's see the historical context, because Bhagavatam is a series of incidents which are there, which are not discrete, which are not separate. There are things, there is a thread which is connecting them. And this thread, if you see and see this, how Bhagavatam is progressing, then it becomes very beautiful. It's very relishable. So what did Vyasadev do? Why Sonaka Rishi is asking this? To know the answer, we have to go back the pages of Bhagavatam and see how did this conversation about Narada and Vyasa happen, or where did it start from? We know the first chapter of Bhagavatam talks about the questions by the sages, and they asked 6 questions, and those 6 questions were answered by Sutta Goswami in the first canto, second chapter. So not second chapter, starting from second chapter, ending till third chapter. So all the 6 questions which the sages asked got answered. But again, in the first canto, fourth chapter, there are questions which are asked by Sonaka Rishi. And these are very important questions. And what is happening is, Sutta Goswami is answering these questions. And when we know these questions, even when we see this chapter and the subsequent chapters, it makes more sense. Oh, okay, now Sonaka Rishi is, Sutta Goswami is going to answer this question of Sonaka Rishi. Then, the whole thread is visible to us. So what were the questions asked by Sonaka Rishi? So if we go flashback, anybody wants to try? Anyway, leave it. If we go back and see the questions which were asked by Sonaka Rishi, this is the first question that he asked on behalf of the sages. Why, when, where, and what about compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam? Very interesting question. The exact verse is, in what period and at what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? 1.4.3. This was the question which asked by Sonaka Rishi. So why, when, where, and what about compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam? The next question that he asked was, how was Sukadev Goswami perceived in Hastinapur, and how did he meet Parikshit? It's a very important question. That was answered in the 4th chapter itself. How was Sukadev Goswami perceived in Hastinapur, and how did he meet Parikshit? Mind you, Sukadev Goswami always a transcendentalist. He was naked and he was roaming around here and there. So his question is very pertinent, that how he was perceived in Hastinapur, and how all of a sudden did he meet Parikshit? And the third question was the birth and activities of Parikshit. Explain to us what are the birth and activities of Parikshit. And the fourth question was, why did Parikshit give up everything? Very profound questions. These questions are so important, because the Bhagavatam's further discussion is based on these questions. And in response to these questions, Sutta Goswami, when he began to speak the answer to the first one, why, when, where, and what about compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam, the conversation between Narada Muni and Vedavyas comes. Right? We all have seen how Vedavyas, after having written, not some ordinary person, Vedavyas, the Trikalagya, who can see that the future is going to be Kali Yuga, where people of less intelligence are going to be born, he divided the Vedas, and he wrote so many Upanishads, Puranas, Vedanta Sutra, and having written all of those, still Vedavyas was not satisfied in his heart. And that dissatisfaction was seen and understood by his spiritual master, Narada Muni. And Narada Muni comes. Of course, before even Narada Muni comes, Vedavyas himself realizes that probably I have not glorified Krishna sufficiently. I have not glorified devotional service properly. Probably that is the reason I am despondent. But Narada Muni comes, and we have been seeing that for past so many weeks and months, the conversation between Narada Muni and Vedavyas. Wonderful conversation. Narada Muni gives his own example to illustrate the power of hearing and the power of engaging in devotional service. And then going further, now that Narada Muni has gone, the question is now connecting. Again, so Sonaka Rishi is coming. Arey, we were asking about Srimad Bhagavatam. Now Narada Muni heard that he has to glorify. Did he start writing Srimad Bhagavatam? That's what he wanted to know, confirm and make a full stop. Okay, then he did this. And that is why this question is very important to see how the thread is progressing further. Now, very interestingly, we will see what Vedavyas does. That will come in the subsequent verses. But one of the things that I wanted to tell you is that Vedavyas immediately didn't write Bhagavatam. He went and sat in meditation, in trance. And he saw certain things, like Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada being an Acharya, he doesn't want us to wait till the end what is going to happen. He gives a summary of what is going to come in the first verse itself. Prabhupada writes in the purport that Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance and devotion. Before commencing the great epic, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. By devotion. Devotion is such an important thing. Actually, it is not by knowledge, it is not by yoga, it is not by austerity, it is not by any other path. He realized the whole truth by trance. Trance is the fourth state. If we read Bhagavatam, it is mentioned there is Supta, there is Jagrata, there is Swapna, and then there is Susupti, or the Turiya state, or the trance, Samadhi. So Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. In devotion, when he was sitting in meditation, he realized this before commencing the great epic. He realized, and then he would write, and we will see his realizations going forward. Wonderful verse. What is the realization of the absolute truth? What the absolute truth is before he starts writing. Another way of looking at this particular question, which is asked by Sonaka Rishi, what did Vyasadeva do, is very important, because when we also hear a lot of instructions, lot of important messages from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we get some opportunity to hear or to read, to come across, to see the instructions given by pure devotees. What do we do? What do we do is a very important thing, because hearing and reading is not meant for some kind of intellectual enjoyment. It is meant to be applied in our lives. And that is where Bhagavatam becomes so relevant, so practical, because it has got those examples of great, not so great people who were put into real life situations. It's not a perfect example of everyone who was doing everything perfect. There are imperfections in life. There are also challenges where you may falter, but how do you come back? So this question, what did Vyasadeva do, is very important and relevant to us also in our life. Having heard from great sage like Srila Prabhupada, what are we doing in our life? The action that we do in life always has an impact, has a reaction. Every action that we do has a reaction. So we have to make our conscious decision as to what actions we are doing. What are preventing us in taking the right actions? What are the roadblocks which is not helping us to progress in our devotional life? Now, who can point it out? The first person who can point it out is our own self. When we hear, when we see, we should introspect, we should reflect as Vyasadeva did. He didn't go immediately start writing. He reflected on those instructions. He sat on meditation. And then after having gotten the sufficient inspiration, he starts writing. Very important to do this in day-to-day life. Maybe not every day, but some point in time we should reflect. We should introspect. I have taken up to this path. What am I doing? Am I really on the right track? Am I really following the right things which have been given by my Acharya, by my spiritual master, or I'm deviating? I'm following the instructions of my mind. Because what happens is, like we are seeing in this our property itself, when you put some seeds of grass, weeds grow. You just can't prevent it. And before even you realize, the weeds have overtaken the grass. Like that, the creeper of bhakti is very tiny, very small, very fragile, very tender, very soft. If it has to be protected, one has to ensure that there are no more weeds growing along with it. And mind you, weeds do grow. Strongly they grow. Unless somebody is careful, like a gardener who's removing those weeds, bhakti, where it is gone, lost and over, we don't even realize. Effect, symptoms of that, people are morose, sad. they are complaining, they are finding faults, they're not, they are looking to change, they're thinking what is going on. Maybe I didn't choose the right path. I have heard to the extent, there is one boy who used to come in Bangalore. Prabhu, jab tak bahar tha, as long as I was in the material world, everything was good. Now that I have taken up to devotion, everything is so difficult. Everything is so this thing. Probably going back to material world is a better option. This kind of thing can come. That is why reflection and introspection, mananam, is very important in life. So cause and effect, we all know. Any action that we do, it is always, there is an effect of it. And usually people in this material world are so caught up in finding what is the cause. Oh, because in this temple that devotee is not there, this facility is not there, that is why I'm not able to do main devotion. That person, he spoke to me in such a way, so I'm not feeling inspired to do devotional life. We get into this cause and effect. And this cause and effect, when we do this analysis, it cannot lead to any permanent solution, because material cause and material effect are not the ultimate cause and ultimate effect. To understand this, let's take some example and see how wonderful this Bhagavatam's descriptions are. Before we go there, first I would like to say why we do this cause and effect and what are the problems with this cause and effect, material problems and material cause and effect. There is a word which is used called gunamayim. This is from one of the purports. I don't remember where it is, but I was just searching for gunamayi. And gunamayi means invested with the three modes of material nature. The material world is so created, it is invested. It is invested with the three modes of material nature. I want to do a devotional service for the Lord. I want to make a simple garland. But in the process, if the modes of material nature are acting on us and we are not careful about it, in the process we lose the interest to do it, or we find why something is not happening the way I wanted it. It's because modes of material. Though the process of doing that is transcendental, because we are here in this material world which is invested. This word used by Prabhupada is invested with the three modes of material nature, then we don't know, we are caught up and we get, they act on us and we helplessly act. And then we lose the focus, we lose the taste, we lose the, the power of devotion, and we get carried away by some other things. When the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, this Gunamayim energy acts as a manifestation of the energies of the three modes. It acts as a covering. It covers us. So what happens is our bodily concept of life becomes prominent. And in the bodily concept of life, when we try to find cause and effect analysis, oh, he didn't do this, hey, usko pata nahi, I know everything, main kaise kar sakta hu, who can do like me? All these things become very prominent in our life because it has covered our true self. It has covered this material energy, this material world is invested with this. So what do we do? Some of the points from Bhagavatam, if you remember, because in our day-to-day life, not everything stays with us. We read Bhagavatam, we read so minutely about those transcendental conversation which happened between Narada and Vyasa, but if you have to recollect, not many things come out. Maybe one or two things, he ate the remnants, maybe it will come out. But there are so many series of things which has happened, which has led to this transformation of the son of a maidservant to Narada Muni. But those things do not stay. But if we remember some very, very crucial, like, he ate the remnants of the Bhakti Vedantists, those things stay. Like Chanchalpati Prabhu was saying the other day, that, that image that Prabhupada was walking back from the house of Michael Grant with, what is that guy's name? Carl, and carrying that suitcase, morning 7 o'clock, and Mukunda or Michael Grant at that time was looking from the window. It's a thing that we should always remember. These are all very, look at what austerity Srila Prabhupada, a sannyasi from Vrindavan, had to undergo to come to this country like US and live in the area where the hippies were living in that very filthy place, and looking for an accommodation so that he can start this worldwide mission. They should always stay. Mukunda looking that I could not help, and he's feeling guilty. Similarly, there are certain things which should always stay in our life, which we should always remember. When we get disturbed, when we get agitated, when we lack inspiration to do devotional service, these images, these things should remind us, oh, probably I'm not doing something right. Here is first. Here is the example which comes in Bhagavatam, very interesting, very powerful, of a reflection. I'm not quoting the verse, you can see it yourself in, I think it's in the second canto, Yatha Chandramasa, whatever that verse, but the image is very powerful. You see, when a full moon is there in the sky, and the sky is very clear, and there is a reflection of the moon in the water, and if there is a stone or there is a ripple in the water, you can see the reflection of moon which is there in the water is also quivering. There is a quiver of the moon. But actually the moon is steady and it is there in the sky. It is not affected by this ripple of the water. But the water ripple makes it look like as if the moon is also quivering. Similarly, there will be so many ups and downs which will come in our life. And those ups and downs, when we are doing, finding out this cause and effect analysis, we think, oh, because of this has happened, all these things we are doing. But actually we don't realize that this material cause and effect has got nothing to do with the spirit soul. It is free. This temporary body that we have accepted, this when we are acting on these modes of material nature, it makes us go through certain situations of happiness, distress, certain situations of fame, infamy, certain situations of honor and criticism. But how do we need to realize and understand these verses? Like the moon which is there in the sky, similarly spirit soul is unaffected. Similarly the super soul is unaffected. Similarly the Supreme Lord is unaffected. These are only when one is in the bodily concept of life that he gets affected by this. That's why Krishna's famous instruction in Bhagavad Gita, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama apaina anityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, when these senses are meeting in sense objects, not that you want to, but you are forced to. When that is happening, sometimes we experience happiness, sometimes we experience distress. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama, they come, apaina, they don't stay, anityas, they are temporary. Tam stitikshasva bharata, tolerate them, don't get agitated by this. Second picture that should stay with us is this very powerful instruction from Bhagavatam. If we remember this, it should always stay with us. Very important episode, this will come in due course, the first canto, 17th chapter, where you can see this, there is a bull and there is a cow, and they are bleeding profusely. The bull is standing in one leg, just one leg he is surviving. Anybody knows what is that leg of the bull which is surviving? Yeah, honesty or truthfulness. But you may wonder yourself, where is the truthfulness? That also is getting, how nowadays you hardly find people who are truthful or honest. People have become, that also is getting diminished. But very important picture to remember in life is, this episode where Parikshit was going in his kingdom and he saw this Kali Purusha, Kali personified, who was holding this, it's lying here if you see my cursor. He was holding this whatever weapon in his hand, and this bull and cow, they are bleeding profusely. They have been slaughtered. I mean, their 3 legs are gone, and they are crying. It's a very helpless condition. And seeing this, Parikshit was completely taken aback, and he wanted to punish. So he dragged Kali to one side, and he was about to punish him. You can see he has raised his sword to punish him. But before he does that, like in the law also, when the victim is there in the court, they ask the victim to recognize the perpetrator. Okay, he is the one. Yes, he's the one who has done this. I have to point the finger. Even though evidences, everything is there. So Parikshit wanted to confirm this before he could exercise the punishment on Kali. He wanted to check from cow and bull. Is he the person who has done this? Of course it is evident. But the response of cow is very striking, very, very striking. And this we should always remember in life. What is the response of bull? I have taken just a small portion. I think this is first canto, 17th chapter, 18th verse, purport. In that Prabhupada says, although the bull or the personality of religion and the cow, the personality of the earth, knew perfectly well that the personality of Kali was the direct cause of their sufferings, still as devotees of the Lord, they knew well also that without the sanction of the Lord, no one could inflict trouble upon them. So they could not say. They said, okay, he may be the direct cause who has done this, but he is doing this only by the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Very important point in life. When we go through some difficulties or challenges or reversals or whatever may be, we should remember that this is happening by the sanction of the Lord. Actually, if you further read that chapter, Prabhupada says something. What is so great about it? Okay, they didn't identify the cause. What is so great about it? Prabhupada says actually they could transcend this invested material modes by this response. Why? Because they got peaceful. After all, this is done by the Supreme Lord. They were not agitated or disturbed. It is happening by the sanction of the Supreme Lord. This picture is a very important thing which should stay with us. Then, of course, I don't have the picture, but the picture you can visualize. This is, Parikshit, who was there on the banks of the Ganges, and all the sages have assembled. And, before Sukadev Goswami could arrive there, something very important, very interesting, which Parikshit Maharaj says. He has been cursed. It's such a pitiable situation in one way to look at it. King Parikshit, the devotee of the Lord, being protected by the Lord in his mother's womb, always, for no reasons he felt some thirsty. He was so tired and thirsty, and he had no idea that the sage, the hermitage in which he is entering, the sage is sitting in trance, and he is meditating on the Lord, and he didn't respond. And sometimes it happens even in our interactions with some devotees, you say something which you really don't mean. You may feel that this is not right, but you're not able to say sorry. Something similar to that, maybe Parikshit thought that I should have been respected, I should have been given some water. After all, I just wanted a little water. But when he saw no response from Samika Rishi, he put a dead snake around his neck. Of course, we don't do that. You don't find a dead snake and put behind her. We don't do, but sometimes we speak something. But when he left that hermitage, he was repenting in his heart that why did I do this? I should not have done that. It is not right on my part. But even though in those days there was no WhatsApp, there was no Telegram, there was no other means of communication, Samika Rishi's son, who was not present there, could get to know about it. And he cursed. Okay, you have put a dead snake around my father's neck, you will die in 7 days by the bite of a snake. And even though Parikshit has left the scene, he could also know that he has been cursed. But look at the response of Parikshit. This is where the whole thing changes. It's a beautiful verse of Bhagavatam. Tasyaiva meghasya paravaresho vyasakta chittasya griheshu abhikshnam nirveda mulo dijaswapa rupo yatra prasakto bhayama sudhatte. I don't know, this is 119, 14 or 15 maybe that verse, but wonderful verse. Tasyaiva meghasya paravaresho vyasakta chittasya griheshu abhikshnam nirveda mulo dijasapa rupo yatra prasakto bhayama sudhatte. The translation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of both the transcendental and mundane worlds. Stop here because there is a full stop. So we all know that the Supreme Lord resides in the transcendental Goloka Vrindavana or in Vaikuntha Loka. But here it is mentioned the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of both the transcendental and mundane worlds. He is the controller. So it is by his control, it is by his sanction. 13th chapter, 33 verse, Bhagavad Gita says, Upadrashta Anumanta. He is sanctioning these things. Supreme. So the moment you know this, anything that is happening in our life, it is happening by the sanction of the Lord. Sometimes when we are driving car, right, and we are not driving fast, we're driving with some mistakes, with a little bit of this thing, not able to keep in the right track. We are going, and we are seeing through the rear mirror. We see there is a car which is there very far. But the car is so fast, it overtakes you like this. Zoom, it goes just like that. In life also sometimes, we are thinking we are cruising in life. Everything is in control. Tack, tack, tack. Life is going all of a sudden you don't know something happens in life. How do you know? How do you react to that? You have to remember this. Tasyeva meghasya para vareso. Para avara. The Lord is the controller of both the transcendental and material worlds. He has created this situation for us. So then what happened? When you know this, how did Parikshit respond? Has graciously overtaken me in the form of a Brahmana's curse. So he's telling overtaken, like the car which has overtaken us. It's like that. The Supreme Lord has overtaken me in the form of a Brahmana's curse. He thought, okay, the Lord has come in the form of Brahmana's curse. Wonderful response in life, right? So what happened after that? He's saying, due to my being too attached to family life, the Lord, in order to save me, has appeared before me in such a way that only out of fear, I will detach myself from the world. So he actually, if you see after that, what happened to Parikshit is just amazing, glorious. It's not so bad. He heard. How many of us, if we get an opportunity or an invitation, Sukadev Goswami is going to narrate Bhagavatam. Will you be interested? Of course, there may be somebody who's not interested. But imagine the opportunity. Pure devotee, even transcendentalist like Sukadeva Goswami, he comes and he's going to narrate Bhagavatam. He got this opportunity because he responded, he understood that there is a hand of the Lord. Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of both the transcendental and mundane worlds, has graciously overtaken me in the form of a Brahmana's curse. Or if you see the other, if you visualize or keep this picture in mind, when Vidura was insulted by Duryodhana, it comes in the first canto, I think, 13th chapter or somewhere. There, very harsh words. It's like he's a son of a maid servant. He's eating our remnants, whatever we are giving. He should not be given anything other than his own breaths, and he should be thrown out. Something like that, Duryodhana says. Well, before they throw him out, Vidura kept his bows and arrows and he left. But after that, if you see Vidura, the way he responded, he didn't get agitated, he didn't get disturbed, he didn't get none of those things. His life was great. He met Uddhav, he met Maitreya, he discussed so many wonderful narrations. He heard Bhagavatam. Life was different. So when we see the hands of the Lord in our lives, things become very different. Our agitation, disturbance, anger, moroseness, depression, all goes away. I don't have full control of my life. Things happen. But when we see hands of Lord in life, then our action becomes very, very different. What did Vyasadev do? Okay. Finally, there is one thing, this verse, if you remember, this is the ultimate thing, and with this we will close. Wonderful verse. It's so wonderful and so profound that we should always repeatedly remember this verse. What is this verse? Masmin Maharaja Kritasma Chintam Nisamya Samadvacha Adritatma Yadhyayato Daiva Hatam Nukartum Mano Tirushtam Visate Tamo Andham. The context is one person by name Prithu Maharaj has been trying to perform Aswamedha Yajna, 100 sacrifices of this horse. Repeatedly he is failing. Repeatedly. Not once, twice. Many a times Indra is coming and stealing the horse. And he is not giving up. Indra is not giving up. Indra is scared of his position. Prithu Maharaj has all good intentions, but he wants to do this so that the subject and everybody will be happy. And in that process, when 4 or 5 times he has failed, Brahma appears and he speaks this verse. Masmin Maharaja Kritah Smachintam Nisamaya Smad Vacha Adritatma Yad Dhyayato Daiva Hatum Nakartum Manotirushtam Visate Tamondham. Beautiful verse. What is the translation? My dear king, do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices have not been properly executed due to providential impediments. Many times it happens. We have our own plans. We want to do certain things in this way. And when it doesn't happen, even if it is for devotional services, this is all good intentions. Prithu Maharaj didn't have any other intention of engaging in sense gratification. He was trying to do it for the welfare of the subject in his kingdom. But he was not being successful. But here is the response by Brahma. He is telling, do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices have not been properly executed due to providential impediments. Things can happen in life. There are things which are not in our control. But the important thing to remember is not to get agitated and anxious. And then he says, kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. Sometimes we feel, अरे मैं बहुत अच्छा डिवोटी हूँ, मेरे को कोई समझ नहीं पा रहा है इधर, मैं इतना काम करना चाहता हूँ. I'm so nice devotee, and these people are not able to understand, and we feel I'm really sorry. I can't. Actually, that is the Maya which is acting on us, which makes us feel that, oh, here nobody can understand. Only when I was there in some other place, everything was right there. No, no, no. If something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. You see? These are all very important revelations. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. And wonderful purport, 4-5 lines. I'll just read this. It says, sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. So it's not just normal people who are going through their ordeals of action and reaction that they meet reversals. Even saintly and religious people, they also have to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection, we should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. These are some of the important things. If you could remember these images, if not everything, then our action will not be governed by the modes which this material world is invested with. It will be driven by a transcendental inspiration. In one place, Prabhupada says that for a person who is who's always able to remember the Lord gives him inspiration to be engaged in devotional service. Whereas for someone who's not able to remember the Lord appears as Kala, as time, and finishes his life. So the choice is ours. Sometimes when we go through this situation, the most important thing that we forget is we have to remember the Lord, or it is happening by His ordeal, by His sanction. When we do that, our action becomes very different. Our state of being engaged in devotional service also changes. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Oh, Jagan Bro was not able to hear. I didn't see this. I was not connected to the audio. Yeah.
When you told that when something bad happens to pure devotees and anyone, you should think it as the Lord having a hand in, like, sanctions it, right? So then when something bad happens to a pure devotee, like, why does the Lord make something bad happen to the pure devotee when he's a pure devotee?
So we saw that right in the purport that I was showing, that it's not just that reversals happen in ordinary people's life, it also happens with saintly people or very religious persons. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest. The reason why it happens in the lives of pure devotees is just twofold. One is to exemplify how these devotees respond, because we also need some role models, we need some examples to follow. And the kind of always we should remember the problems that are given by the Lord to us are only those which we can handle in our lives. You will not get a problem which you can't handle. So the kind of problems the pure devotees undergo or they are put into are very high compared to what we are put into. But they can handle that, like Prahlad. He was put into so many difficult situations. He was being, he was trying to be, he was getting killed by Hiranyakashipu in so many ways. But he was unaffected because his faith and this thing doesn't, shake. But in our case, in our life, Krishna gives that much of problem which you can handle. But he tests us. For conditioned soul, he tests our conviction. Like for example, let's say you want to hang something like that clock which is there, which is hanging from one of the nails, right? When you put the nail in that and then you are about to put the clock, first what you do is you just, oi, either. First what you do is, before putting that, you test it, whether, the nail is strong or not. Then you hang the clock, right? It's like that Krishna also tests us. He gives little bit of difficulty, little bit of challenges, and we need to have faith in that. Then that will be hanging. Krishna gives. This process is given, these difficulties or the reversals in life come so that we learn from it. Our conviction should not get shaken at that point in time, rather it should become strong. That test if we pass, then we get favored by the Lord. Does it help?
Yeah, that does.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hmm.
So we hear that certain emotions and qualities, they can be dovetailed in the service of the Lord. Prabhupada gives the example of how Hanuman dovetailed the emotion of anger. So the tendency to take revenge, can devotees dovetail that also?
Tendency to take revenge.
Yes.
I think the only way they can dovetail that, if they have to really, is when they come across someone who's blaspheming a pure devotee or who's blaspheming the devotees, and they are in a position, it is mentioned that you should cut that person's tongue and then you kill yourself and do these things. But practically this idea of revenge is to be condemned. It has to be aborted completely. There's a very material this thing in that. When the passion is very strong in us, we want to do that. And unknowingly, when you harbor that kind of feeling, it leads to much more damage in other places. So you don't find always a person who's blaspheming a pure devotee or a devotee in front of you, right? So you find some normal devotee, very good devotee, he's talking to you nicely, something he did maybe unknowingly or unintentionally. You want to take revenge. It's a very, very bad idea. It leads to so many problems, complications, Vaishnava Aparad. It leads to, bhakti is gone then after that. Yeah, those kind of, so for us, the answer to this question is, Pranadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadhari. What is the big purpose of life? I want to be engaged in kirtaniya sadahari, not some 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But if you harbor this kind of feelings, where is Trinadapi and Tarorapi Saishnana? And if that is not there, Kirtaniya Sadhari is not there. So Kirtaniya Sadhari, if Kirtan only is getting affected, what is the point having those kind of feelings? I think the mic is not on.
Yeah, Prabhu. So instead of rectifying such reversals, right? Rectification. Certain things that we are not comfortable that's happening to us through some sources, right? We are not trying to rectify it, but how do we still make the other source that you are causing this to me, right? What's that process in the sense? By engaging or letting the other person know that they are causing this to me, readily they are not going to accept it, right? So how do we in this, when we say accept, don't try to change it, like what do we mean, like
Yeah, I think the point, there is a tendency that I want to make that other person know, because of you this has happened. I think that's a very legitimate need which comes from within. अरे तू कितना suffering देगा मेरे को life में? But here we saw the example of the bull. He didn't even identify the perpetrator, right? Why? Because he knows that the other person is there in his life by the sanction of the Lord. The more you think, now what it does is, you may let that person know, you are creating the trouble in my life. What it does is, it affects the relationship. Usually, when you want to know that other person that it is because of him this is happening, when you are close with him. Not with some stranger who is, you are walking and somebody did, you don't care about it so much. But your close one, you want to let them know because of you this has happened. But here this is what is saying, that you don't blame, this is immediate cause which you are seeing. And don't get affected by it, because there is a bigger plan. There is a sanction of the Lord due to which that person is there, that situation is created and this is happening in your life. Moment you see that the Lord is just not the controller of the spiritual world as well as the material world, you become peaceful. You don't resist, you don't try to be agitated in that situation. This is fine. This is what it is. That acceptance makes a person peaceful, and it helps him maintain his sanity and remain in that transcendental platform, or to be able to remember the Lord rather than becoming agitated or being disturbed. That is what it is. Usually we are trained to see the immediate cause. That's what I was saying, the cause and effect. Root cause analysis is something which is done in every organization for something which didn't go right or whatever it is. They try to find out what is the root cause. But even if we try to find that root cause, that is not the ultimate cause. That is the immediate cause. That could be the cause which has caused, as per our intelligence, we are saying that this is what it is, but ultimately this is being sanctioned by the Lord. He is the supreme cause. When we know that, and the Supreme Lord is our biggest well-wisher, we become very peaceful. That's fine. It's no need to feel disturbed. And that's the examples which Bhagavatam is giving. Yeah, sure.
So, on one hand, we see that the bull does not recognize the cause and effect, or the cause for the suffering. But on the other hand, we see Maharaj Parikshit trying to identify the cause. So, is that how is that to be seen, that he is doing his duty? And
Yeah, I mean, we have to see what Bhagavatam wants us to show. We have to see through the lens of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam wants us to recognize this point that the cow didn't identify the perpetrator. Okay, Parikshit was doing that. As a matter of duty, king has a lot of duty. But when he is also tasyeva meghasya paravaresho, he is happy that the curse is just it is stopping at him, and he is not letting it go to his subject, because he is accepting it as Lord's plan, that the curse has come and it has overtaken. He is happy with that. Otherwise, like in that Yaksha thing, when Shiva was criticized, so Nandi and other people started cursing those sages. The sages started counter cursing. So this counter curse was going on. Lord Shiva just left that place peacefully. Similarly, in life also, when what Bhagavatam is trying to show us is that a situation like this, where the cause is right there, he has done this. It's you feel strongly, "Arey, mere ko kaat diya hai, I'm bleeding here, and somebody should take revenge." This is the instinct. But they didn't do that. And they didn't do because they saw the hand of the Lord. But ultimately what happened, they could transcend the material modes. This is the victory of those cows and bulls. This is what comes in Bhagavatam. Otherwise we get implicated by those modes of material nature. That is why the last line of this purport, we should repeat this. You repeat after me. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. This is the key. another question. We'll stop here and see how Vedavyas in his trance, in his meditation, what did he see and what is the realization of the absolute truth before he started commenting on Srimad Bhagavatam. Wonderful discussion which is ahead of us. We will see that. We'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.